Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Fresh Hell Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy. And today we're talking to Hari Kondabolu. He is a stand-up comedian that is praised as one of the most exciting political comics in stand-up. And he's just released a brand new comedy special, Vacation Baby, which is available now for worldwide viewing on YouTube. Welcome, Hari.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So tell us off the bat how old. You have one child, is that correct?
Yes. He's almost 3 years old. This August, he'll be 3.
Oh, gosh. Well,
an excellent time of year to be born.
We greet you from the future, and we think of you with all respect and thoughts and prayers, really, because 3 is the hardest age? I think it might be. It's up there. If I had to pick like 3 top hardest ages between 0 and 18, 3 would definitely rank. It would make the top 3, I'm saying.
Well, I was told that obviously 2 is the historic terrible 2s. And so I was like, we're almost done with 2. And then I was told, no, 3 is the hard one. So I'm like, then.
we really shouldn't tell people this because terrible 2s has gotten a reputation.
Yeah.
And then you start Googling when they're like 3 and 2 months because you're like, what's going on?
Yeah,
I was told the 2s were terrible. And then everything you read is like, 3s are much, much worse. And I think that they keep that information back because if people knew, they would be horrified.
What is it about 3?
They're more intellectual, so they're like better at the game, but they still have all the stupidity of 2.
Yeah.
And so it's like AI becoming sentient. It's like a 2-year-old becoming sentient and evil.
Yeah,
that's what I think a 3-year-old is.
Yeah, so now he can speak in complete sentences.
That's it.
He's clever enough to like throw it back, even if it doesn't always make sense. He'll ask why a lot more, and you won't have answers. Right?
Yeah,
he's worked out his material. It's not new material at this point. He's very polished. He's got a polished set.
He's probed your weak spots a little bit too. Like he's tested it out. It's nothing but trouble.
Well, here's my first question for you. Do you mind telling us your son's name?
Sure. His name is Arjun.
Arjun. Oh, my daughter's friend's name is Arjun. And I ask because in the special, you do this hilarious extended part about choosing a name for your child.
Yes.
And how the unwanted input that you might get from some third parties, including grandparents. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I was told by friends way too late, don't share like your name ideas with your family or friends because everyone has thoughts. And it was like, I wish you had told me this several months ago because it's already been done and everyone does have their thoughts. And at the end of the day, it like really doesn't matter. Like you both have to be comfortable with it. But it's so difficult when all of a sudden you see a face or, oh, really? OK. Like it just kind of throws off. I felt really good about this until this moment. And, so I asked my mom for names and all her suggestions were like Indian names, which is fine because I wanted an Indian name personally. But like, the key thing I said is just, it's okay if they're like super Indian names, just make it so people have a chance of pronouncing them. Like give people the ability to figure it out, like something. And she was coming up with names like Shatrughan and Giridhar. And I'm like, this is not, you're in a world that's way far from, I said accessible in this country. And I'm not like one who like is super like, I want it to be a name like Jay or something that's really, that works in both languages and that is, is easy to pronounce. Like I'm not into that because I feel like, a name should have meaning and you shouldn't restrict yourself. And at the same time, I'm like, let's cap it at 3 syllables at the bare minimum. Can we agree to that?
We're both Irish, and the Irish name is always like, it's Clouieuielou, and it's pronounced Claire.
Yeah,
and you're I think we should just go with Clare,
Yes.
Right.
But that's right. We definitely have that. Yeah, Amy has done this in her own life. She has chosen the name with 86 vowels.
Unpronounceable and absolutely beautiful, as all traditional names are, right? Yeah. And it's exciting. I mean, when back in the day, when I was growing up, my kids howl when I show them like my 8th grade class photo, and it's like Pat, Billy, Bobby, Pat, Jeff and Pat. Like there were 4 names.
Yeah. Like you were legally allowed to pick 4 names.
Yeah, right. Didn't have to commit.
What were you assigned?
Right.
Yeah. Like an English royal. You could just keep naming.
Right.
Yes, exactly. And I think that was true. I mean, I grew up in a homogenous place, but I think for boys more than for girls, it was sort of like, you got to keep your margins really tight. And now I feel like, thankfully, those days are over. And my kids' names and my kids' friends' names, like they're definitely the only one. Is your kid Arjun? Is he so far the only Arjun wherever he goes, or not quite?
It's different in like New York. Like right now,
yeah.
Like I think he has a classmate whose brother is Arjun. So it's not like, I wouldn't say it's like a Steve, but it's more like or like a Greg. It's like an Aaron, I guess. Do you know what I mean? Like,
fair.
Not everyone's named Aaron, but you'll meet an Aaron. I think. I think it's in that world. It's definitely not a Steve or a Robert or a Greg or something. It's like, everybody has that name. It's funny because that was my dream name. Arjun was my dream name. That was the name I wanted from like go. And it was the first name I suggested when we knew we were pregnant, and it was shot down immediately. And
wait, by who? By
my partner. Yeah, she wasn't into
by your partner. Okay.
So we went through every.
That's usually the only veto vote.
That was like, and it was like, all right. So then we didn't know the gender initially, so we had like 1 million girls' names that we liked, and like 3 boys' names that were like passable. So it was, and then we found out it was a boy. So then we were going through every name from as many cultures as possible. And she's Italian and Puerto Rican, so we're thinking Italian names, or like, names with Spanish heritage, or like different Indian names. And we just kept going and going. And then maybe a month out, I said, what do you think of Arjun? And she's like, yeah, let's put that. And I'm not sure if she remembered she had rejected it, or whether we went through every name you could possibly go through and it was like back on the table. But that was the one that like friends and family were also into. Like,
interesting. First of all, 2 things. One, it's like the SAT, right? Go with your first guess. Because that's what they say. Like your first guess, and then you go around, you change it later. Your first guess was correct. I think that's right. That's what we did with all of our kids. I was like, how about this name? I will say my husband is a go along, get along guy. He was like, that's fine. I could have suggested it. That's not true. I tried to get a Finbar, and he did draw the line at Finbar. He was like, I'm not having a kid name. Finbar.
Like Finn?
It's another Irish. It's an Irish name.
It would be short to Finn, I'd imagine, right?
It's Finn, yeah. And so I wanted a Finbar. He would not go with Finbar. He was like, I don't understand what that even is. It doesn't sound like a name. It sounds like a strange thing you yell when you hurt yourself.
It sounds like something made of chocolate, yeah.
Yeah, Finbar, yeah.
In a board game when you like get 5 in a row. Finbar!
Finbar! Right, yeah. No, he wouldn't go with Finbar. But the other thing is, it's like people definitely with names, they will say insane things about a name that you chose.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, that's a serial killer name. And then if you choose that name for the rest of your life, you're looking at them at the family reunion being like, you're the one who thinks my kid's a serial killer. And they probably don't even remember saying it, but everybody's got something to say. But nobody would say like, I think that name that you chose. Like I would never have the conversation now and be like, that sounds like a serial killer's name that you chose for your kid. Of course not. But it's when it's theoretical, people just have license to say whatever they want.
Well, this one, like, I will preface this by saying that she's a 20-something comedian. She asked what my kid's name was. And my kid at this point is like 1-something. I told Arjun, and she's also South Asian. And she's like, oh, I don't think I can say this on this podcast, so I'm trying to find another way to phrase what she said.
Now we're very intrigued. You better find another way.
Yeah. So basically, she's like, oh, Arjun, that's like an F-boy name. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you didn't know that? And I'm like, no, I'm almost 40. I'm 40 now. And you're like, what, 17? Technically, you're 25, but you're 17. So, like, you're telling me it was such a, like, here's a bit of advice. Do not ever say anything negative about a child's name to the parent. Ever.
Not when they're one. Not when they're like walking around.
Not when they're born. If it's theoretical, again, it's borderline. But when they're in the world, you're done.
Is that really such a... That might be kind of a compliment. I mean, that would be at least like that's meant to be an attractive person's name.
I don't know. Your son his name has a reputation for being a philanderer.
No, not for your
good
own
looking
child, I think.
Like handsome would have been, but I'm like, why would you say that to me? It's one of those moments where you see the difference between like someone who like has friends who are parents and has gone through the process or seen friends go through the process of picking names, and somebody who like has absolutely no connection to that world whatsoever.
Well,
and it's completely disconnected.
Yeah. As I used the phrase, no one would do this, I forgot to put the asterisk over the age of 25.
Correct. It's just so funny just because it's like, I don't think I understood that adulthood for me really started with having the kid.
Yes.
And it's funny because up to that point, I really felt like an adult. I'd pay for everything. I live by myself. You know, I have a stable career. I'm this, and this. And then you realize, oh, no, you're an adult when you're not number one anymore. Mm-hmm. When there's some, like, she could have said anything to me and I would have been fine about me. The second she mentioned my kid's name in any way, I was like, this person is no longer on the list of people in my life that I care about.
Dead
immediately.
To me.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about the dividing line between adulthood before parenthood and adulthood after. We'll take a quick break. We're talking to Hari Kondabolu. He is the host of the new comedy special, Vacation Baby. Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com. Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING. So, Hari, I'm curious about adult life before kids and after kids, particularly in the comedy world, which Margaret and I both sojourned there for a while, becoming parents ourselves, maybe not as recently as you have. It is not a child-friendly space. It's just not a kid-having space for large part. Did you find that? Were you first among your friends in some ways?
It immediately changes how your colleagues and the audience views you. The second you talk about having kids, let's say on stage, you have a bunch of people that don't have kids, right? Mm-hmm. It's funny, the 20-somethings are more in the perspective of the child, right? Because even if I'm talking about a 3-year-old, that is closer to their experience than being a parent,
right.
You know? And they'll say, my sister has a kid. I'm like, it's not the same thing. Like, it's not the same thing.
Or, God forbid, they'll say, no, I have a dog and it's like my baby. And you're like,
every time I hear that, if you want to call yourself a furry daddy or a furry mommy, that's perfectly fine. But when you make the direct comparison, if something happened to my kid, God forbid, I'm not immediately going to an orphanage and looking for another one. Do you know what I mean? Like, if something happened to my kid,
nor do you tie your child outside with a bowl of food when you want to go out for the night. You know, it's just, there's very few comparisons.
Oh, yeah, because he would be taken from me. He would be removed from my custody. Like, words like custody aren't even used with pets. Like, you can't make the comparison. I can't leave my 2-year-old home alone or put him in a cage while I'm gone. When I have to pay for a ticket when I put him on a plane, I'm not going to put him in a cargo bin. Like, what are you talking about? It's not the same thing. Every time I hear that, like, it's similar maybe for the first year when the kid is basically, there's very little communication, the kid's pooping and crawling and is basically like every little baby animal. But as soon as the kid is starting to put some thoughts together, it's like, we're out of that.
And I'm also going to have to stop you as the mother and say, you don't feed your pets from your own body.
Fair.
Yeah. So still not that similar.
Not even that similar. But from the parent, like, you're holding this little thing, you're delicate,
it's a lot of petting and cooing when they're a baby, yes.
Yeah, and there is, like, intellectually, you're not as worried about what you say. There's a bunch of stuff that with a dog, you're just going to say whatever, it's the dog. Like, the accountability is very different. Like, if something happened to your dog, you get another dog, people might be, it's a bad pet owner. Something happened to your kid, you're a terrible human being.
Yeah.
Like, it's so different. If your kid does something, you're a terrible human being. If your kid does something, like, as a single person, if your friend did something, you're not a bad person.
Right.
If your dog does something, you get another dog, that one gets put down. With your kid, it doesn't work that way. Kid does something, like Jeffrey Dahmer's parents could have been perfectly good parents, but can you actually say they were great parents? It's unfair. No. They could have done everything by the book. They could have done every bit of therapy, and at the end of the day, kid ate people. That's the end of the story.
It's an indictment, frankly.
So at what point did you bring, Hari, your kid and parenthood into your act? Did you feel like, I'm not connecting with audiences once I start talking about this? Or did you connect with certain people? How did it feel?
I definitely felt like when I was doing shows where it was just me, I had enough time where I could build a rapport with the audience, and definitely the demographic that's my age felt even more connected to me because they're going through the same things, whether it's having a kid or there's just more there. And for younger people, I feel like if you have 10 minutes to win a crowd over and you're giving them a limited amount of things, they don't really know you. So they're going to resonate with what's in front of you immediately, or they don't, and they move on to the next person. When you're doing an hour, you have time to build that. So even if they can't relate initially, you're building a story. Right. You're building a relationship with them. And so even if they don't have kids, they'll start to get into the idea this person has kids, hear their feelings about kids. And when they start talking about kids later in the set, I've already connected with them, had some experience with them, and it's a different dynamic. But it's not the easiest thing in the world. And certainly, I feel my age a lot more when I talk about having a kid and being in a relationship that's serious and all the things that come with that, like adult problems. These are adult problems. And when I was, single, and definitely when I didn't have a kid, there was just a certain, I didn't have to walk them past a certain point to understand something.
Right.
We were all pretty much on the same page.
Right.
Because what we're paying, rent's high, but it's not like, do you realize how expensive daycare is? Do you realize that's how much we paid for college? That is out of the realm.
You're like, no, I don't. I'm at a comedy club at 11 p.m. I definitely don't know how much daycare costs. Yeah.
Or why are you asking me to do a stand-up set on a Wednesday at 10 p.m.? It's like, I'm not going to do that. I have a child. Even if you're asking me to do a set during the weekday, somebody has to watch the kid. I got to check in with my partner. So I can't. Can you let me know in the next day whether you can do this? No, I got to ask my partner. I got to see what her schedule is. I got to figure out if we can have childcare. And then I got to figure out if I have to get a babysitter, is $50 an hour enough to justify the $10 you're about to pay me for 10 minutes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
These are things that don't get accounted for when you're in your 20s.
And then as a comic, it's like you obviously draw a lot of what you talk about from your life and your day-to-day life. And so what is that algorithm like in terms of what happens to you on a day-to-day is probably pretty dominated, like most people, by your 3-year-old and figuring out how to talk about that. How to figure out how to talk about that, but not talk to people who are like, this is completely foreign to me.
And even if it's talking to people that it isn't foreign to, how do you do something that hasn't been said before and that isn't hacky and isn't expected from a quote unquote dad comic? How do you avoid being a quote unquote dad comic and just a comic that children is part of their set? I mean, right after I started going back out on the road, March 2022. I don't know why I'm saying 2022. But I planned to record an hour, and I told myself I have 2 years of stuff to talk about here. And the set I was working on before the pandemic, we'll put that to the side, because the thing that's important is the pandemic happened. I had a child during this miserable time, and it's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And to ignore that is me being a bad comedian. And regardless of who gets it and who doesn't, this is a necessary document I have to put out of this stage in my life. And so I had a ton of stuff. I had hours of writing, but to discover what was something that was original and what was something that every parent goes through that has been talked about to death, it was especially hard because I wasn't around a bunch of parents and future parents because of the pandemic. We were separated. There were no classes where we're meeting other parents. There isn't walking around and seeing a pregnant couple. There wasn't going to the hospital and talking to doctors and we're both there. It was very remote. And so a lot of the stuff where I'm like, this is a common experience, I didn't know. Or this is a thing that every parent comic talks about, I didn't know. So I had to discover what was still my voice, what was still original, what was something that only something through my lens could give you. And that took a while to figure out what that was. How do you still be cynical about the world, yet have hope because you love this child? And figuring out that space was really hard. How do I talk about race in this context? And it was talking about Tucker Carlson talking about the white minority and people of color taking over. And for me, that resonated because it's are you talking about my kid? Are you talking about interracial couples like me and my partner? It hit me in a way that was so much deeper than just morally wrong. You're hurting my heart. You're hurting my family. And so the rage that comes out there is the rage of a parent and of a son and of a partner who has this world and is excited about creating it with somebody. You're hurting that, and that hurts me. And so it's also talking about things from a very new point of view that maybe subject matter I've talked about before, but it's coming from a different part of the body.
Yeah. And it's coming out, which is the great thing about comics. It's coming out somehow as universally funny and connected, which I think is the gift. We are talking to Hari Kondabolu, and we will be right back.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that. taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
So, Hari, tell us about Vacation Baby. It brings in your pandemic parenting, your experience as a new parent, and the sort of before and after, right?
I mean, it was a special, I feel like I had no choice but to make. Like, what am I going to talk about after the pandemic and having a kid? Am I just going to talk about the world as if that never happened? And, having a child during that period was so bizarre because it's like you're surrounded by death and all of a sudden you bring a child into the world. And there's a part of me that feels this incredible guilt about it because, when people talk about 2020, it's always with this sadness. And when I talk about it, it's like best year of my life. Like my child was born that year. And it's a very bizarre feeling to hold that year with like this great love because, not only was my child born, but I got to spend every day of the pregnancy with my partner. I got to spend every day of the first year of my child's life with him. I mean, that is a privilege that many of us don't get. And I got that because I couldn't work and I had to be home. And, I think there's something about that. So I feel like it's a very specific experience that other parents, especially first-time parents during 2021, can relate to. And I wanted to make something in part for them because I'm like, I know what it felt like to feel isolated and to not feel like we had other people that we could talk to and relate to. And I feel like this special is my way of saying, we saw you. We didn't see you in real life because we couldn't see anybody, but we see you. And I know you see us. And this is a special bond that we have.
I think it's really interesting that your take on having a pandemic baby is so positive. Like we've obviously talked to a lot of parents. We did not have infants during the pandemic. Spoiler alert, our kids are a little bit older. But we mostly have talked to people about what an absolute nightmare it was to have a baby during the pandemic. And I know there were obviously aspects of that, but can you talk a little bit about the positives and how you explore that in the special? Because I think it is a little bit of a different take than we've heard.
I'll start with the negatives just to be able to relate. Sure. It was terrible. We were stuck in a studio apartment while my partner was pregnant. Also, I'll say it was a lot harder for her because I'm not the one carrying the child. And so the idea of going to doctor's visits, I'm sad I can't support her, but she was the one going by herself.
Yeah.
She was the one that was worried about being on the subway and being in public while carrying because she didn't want to get sick and didn't want the baby to get sick. And we didn't know how bad this was. But we knew we were, wiping down food with disinfectants. So we didn't know how bad this was going to get.
Yep.
And so that fear is very different when you're carrying a kid than you're just the observer, right?
Right.
And so we left New York. We were living in New York and we ended up moving to San Diego where her parents are. And it's just more spread out and we got to live and actually have a life there. But packing up your apartment, putting it into storage during a pandemic while your partner's pregnant and not having a place to live when you move back to New York because the lease is up and then having to move cross country with a 3-month-old and moving into a new apartment after that. Like, that whole process was incredibly hard. But the biggest takeaway for me, despite all that, was we were together and we spent every moment together. And there's a connection the three of us have, me, my partner, and my child, that feels so incredibly strong because we went through this together, whether the kid was present in the world or wasn't. Like, we were in it together. We were traveling through this together. We were scared to death together, but we were completely bonded. And I cannot tell you how special that year was, despite how brutal it was, even for us and for everyone else.
It seems to me like maybe you don't know what you don't know in some ways, too. Like, I was going to ask you questions about, does Arjun have more stranger danger than other kids or whatever? But if it's your first child, you don't necessarily know how they're going to act at Target or whatever, as opposed to other kids.
The thing that we found so sad is even at 3, 4, 5 months, you could tell he was a very social kid who had no one to be social with. And it was really kind of like, oh, you're just hungry. Whenever you see somebody new, you're so excited. And when the masks came off, you were like, they have noses and mouths. Like, it's not just mom and dad.
You really think that must be a little odd for kids who grew up in that time of like, wait a minute. Yeah.
You're just seeing eyes and you're like, what's going on? And all of a sudden, just like full faces and expressions and smiles. And he was the excitement when he met his first kid that was around his age. It was his cousin who was a year older and was just like, he was all over him, so excited. Like, there's someone else that's almost my height. Like, it was, I feel worse for the parents that had the 2-year-olds during that time and needed these formative experiences and they couldn't get them.
Yeah.
That to me is the more brutal. And in some ways we got lucky that, his development was happening a little bit later.
But I think it really is true. And the pandemic is interesting how I'm like, oh, that thing where we didn't go outside for 2 years. Like, it just is, things synthesize into your life in really interesting ways. But I do find we're 5, I have 3 kids, and that there is a certain togetherness of the 5 of us that is directly related to the pandemic, that we still kind of come together. I just think now my kids are off with their friends and they can kind of ride bikes and go out and stuff. But there is something that was very bonding about the pandemic in a way that, we, of course, acknowledge the horribleness of the pandemic for, people we knew personally, people we didn't know. It was a horrible experience. But I like that focus on that bond that came out of it, because I think that's something that I only really realize how profound it was in retrospect.
The pandemic, I think, gave us all, whether you had a kid or not, a certain perspective of what life is really supposed to be about. Like the idea of working at home, being present with your family, prioritizing your family over work. Why do we need to go into a workplace? The idea of like, we're trying to build more team spirit. What's more important than team spirit is your family and building a strong family unit. And if we actually care about families as much as we talk about, like, the idea of working from home and creating certain accommodations is just. And I think we all experience that, whether you had a kid or not, like, being with the people you love is the most valuable time you can spend. And it's obviously awful how we got there. But I think for a lot of us, it's like, I don't want to go back to the way it was before. This is a lot healthier. Yeah. I don't want to have to travel hours at a time to and from work every day when I don't need to. And that's another 2 hours with my partner, with my child, with my parents. Like, that time is super valuable, and we felt it.
You have sort of a reputation, I don't know if this is the correct term, of being a political comedian to a certain degree, having worked on shows that have a political bent. How do you see that dovetailing with, like, being a parent? Are there political aspects to being a parent, or is there a separation there?
I mean, for me, there's never a separation, because I feel like, because I have a tough time even seeing it as political.
Right.
Like, political.
That's why I tried to hedge it a little bit, because I know political gets a little bit like, you talk about the world, it's political. Like, it's kind of political to be alive.
That's exactly how I feel. It's this feeling of like, every action, everything we do, the choices we make, they're all political. And I don't really talk as much about Republicans, Democrats. Like, that to me is like talking about sports. And I can talk sports, that's fine.
Sure.
But the actual issues that people deal with, those are not political to me. Like, whether you have enough food to feed your child, do you have health care, what if your kid gets sick? these are not political things to me. They shouldn't be political. So those are the kinds of things I like to talk about. When I talk about racism isn't a political thing. It's a lived experience that, we all deal with regardless of race. Like, I don't think there are white people that love living with the awkwardness of race, the way we have to deal with it in this country, and feel disconnected from other human beings as a result. Like, to me, those are bigger things. And when I think about my kid, I certainly think about the books I'm reading to him. And, is he understanding you can have two mommies or two daddies, or one mommy and one daddy? Can you understand that gender is this thing where, like, there's boys and girls, but some people don't choose to be either, and that's part of it? How do you explain these things? And do the books kind of illustrate that diversity? There's this wonderful book we've been reading, We Are All Welcome Here. And it's this really sweet book where it's just kids in a class, and you see a diverse range of kids. And I'm showing him like that's a headscarf, and that's a turban, and there's a kid with glasses, and that's somebody without. And, I want my kid to understand that the norm that you're going to see is not necessarily going to be reflected in all the media you watch, but this is the norm. Everyone is part of our world.
Look at you with your radical politics saying, we are all welcome here. I mean, my God, way to go out on the edge there, Hari.
I love it. And also, even there's this book called Brown that I've been reading with him, and it's just sweet. It's about a family that has many different shades of brown in their family. And it's just so sweet. And you see, like, the mom is this and the dad's this, and, there's just this huge list. I want him to see that, like, family doesn't mean skin color.
Right.
Family is a much bigger idea. So those things aren't political to me. That's preparing my child for a world I want to see, in a world that exists.
Yeah. We need a long German word instead of political. That's like we understand the human experience from a range of different points of view.
Oh, that's
not
funny.
Just, you're political because you think all people should be welcome in a classroom.
You're right, that we don't have a word that, like, I love that about the German language, is that there's really specific, complicated emotions that can be boiled down that for us takes so many words or essays to explain.
Exactly.
Like, that's unbelievable. That's so funny.
Can I ask, when we're talking about representation, that it matters, I just wanted to connect for our listeners that you also created the documentary, The Problem with Apu, which was 2017. And it's about the character of Apu from The Simpsons, who was historically voiced by Hank Azaria, a white actor, the only South Asian character on The Simpsons, and voiced by a white person. And you sort of just, circled it in a very light and funny way in this documentary that's problematic for a kid. And I think everybody was sort of like, wait, what? And it was not that long ago. And there's been a huge change in conversation since then. So how do you feel about that, the conversation that you helped to change?
I feel a lot different about it now, to be honest, since I had the kid. Because when I put it out there, to me, it wasn't an overly complex idea, but I think the pushback I got, death threats, hate mail, a certain venom that I got towards, like, me questioning a stereotypical cartoon character, and really saying, like, I understand why the time period it was created in, but, like, I had to grow up with it.
Yeah.
And, the fact that, that's going to have an impact when you don't see yourself on screen. And this is the only way you see yourself, your family, your world is boiled down to this. And so to me, it wasn't like an overly complicated thing, but it led to all this feedback. And for a long time, I've just hated the fact that, like, I get known for this thing. Like, I make this documentary about hating my connection to this stereotypical cartoon character, and as a result of making it, I'm forever connected to this cartoon character. Like, the irony of that is hard. And plus the fact that, like, the intellectual conversation I really hoped we would have, it's not that it didn't happen, but it didn't happen as much as people not seeing the film and hating me for making it. Hating the film, but not really knowing what it's about. Making arguments about why I'm wrong that are actually covered in the film because they didn't see it. And at the end of the day, it just becomes fodder for a quote-unquote political correctness conversation, or a conversation about sensitivity, and we can't do anything anymore. And it's like, that's not what the documentary is about. If anything, it's free speech questioning free speech. It's like, this is ultimately what you're supposed to be doing, and it's a criticism of popular culture, which, who taught me that? The Simpsons taught me that. Like, that was my favorite show. Like, this is coming from a fan's perspective and that complicated relationship. since I've had the kid, it's interesting because I think about the fact that I think I've made his life maybe a little better in my own way. Like, I've called this to attention, and all of a sudden I'm hoping he's not going to grow up with those images being portrayed where he thinks that's normal. And that's the only way that a group of people exist. And the fact that there's going to be voice actors of color who get to do those voices, and that the representation is going to be broader. There's a TV series on Disney Plus called Mira Royal Detective, and all South Asians voice it. And I got to voice a few characters in it too.
Wow.
And I met with, which is a thrill, like a full circle moment. And I spoke to the person who created the show, who's a white guy, and he said how when we decided to create the show, we had all the writers in a room and all the producers, and we played your film for them. And we said, like, this is what we're not trying to do. And there's a spirit that the show should have that reflects the reality of today. And, you know, he told me how much of an inspiration my film, Problem with Apu, was in creating that TV show, which means the world to me, just because that means there's a generation of kids, South Asian or not, that are growing up with this really much more complicated and interesting vision of South Asian kids and South Asian people. And knowing that I contributed to that feels amazing. Even talking to Hank Azaria and I are friends now, which is lovely. And Hank telling me, you know, on The Simpsons, the characters of color are now voiced by people of color, and their backstories have gotten more interesting and complicated. And that's because you gave people a reason to. You forced the issue. And even though they haven't brought Apu back because they're afraid of what to do with it or whatever, like, the fact there's been this positive impact, it makes me feel good. And it's funny, I got some tweet from somebody who I think was trying to hurt me and really missed the mark. Said,
that's a lot of tweets.
That's a lot of it. It's like, you know, how are you going to explain to your kid how you ruined The Simpsons and the Apu character? And I'm like, first of all, my kid's not going to know what that is.
Yeah, right.
First of all, The Simpsons is not going to, like, kids today don't know what The Simpsons is. So, one. Two, I think he's going to be proud, like, at the end of the day, because I don't think I'm wrong. And I'm pretty sure society is going to go in that direction, just as it did with Amos and Andy and every other stereotypical piece of art we put out, and then realize, like, it might be what maybe wasn't a good
I'll take the over-under on your kid at 20 being like, Dad, you really messed up The Simpsons. I don't think that's what it's going to be. It's like what it makes me think of, because we talk to, you know, so many parents, is like you're coming into a very dad perspective on life as opposed to like non-dad perspective. A parent perspective on life is really about legacy. It's really about the long game, and you're moving away from like what we have all had, which is like the young person's perspective on life, which is like, what does my week look like? How did what I do affect this week? Because the dad game is a long game.
The day looks different. I mean, it's not even about, there's so, like, if my kid was here right now, we're not doing this podcast, right? Like, this is a complete, like, he dictates, you know, where my time is spent. And yeah, I'm grateful, you know, as hard as it makes me work harder, to be honest, because I have a reason to work harder. Not just because it's very easy when you have a freelance type job to like especially when in an artistic profession, to feel romantic. Like, I'll get it done when it has to get done. The jokes will come when they come. And no, when I had the kid, I was like, I don't have time to be away all year to figure this out. I'm giving myself 3 to 4 months to tour. We're going to come up with the hour and we're going to record it, regardless of where it's at, because it needs to get done. And that's something I never would have done without a child, because I know the most valuable time I could spend is with him. And so I need to drive myself as hard as I can when I have the time. And also, like, make sure my partner is okay with, like, hey, this is going to be a rough 4 months. It's going to end with this product, but like, we have to be on the same page on that. Right. And it's a lot, but you know what? Completely worth it. Completely worth it.
We've been talking to Hari Kondabolu. His stand-up special, Vacation Baby, is available on YouTube right now. It's absolutely hilarious. We'll put the link in the show notes, but Hari, tell our listeners where else they can find you on the internet.
Sure. There's also a longer version of Vacation Baby that I put out that's 25 minutes longer with more jokes and stuff I didn't put into the YouTube special. So if you want to support my work, the YouTube special is free, but if you want to support the work, you can go to Bandcamp and it's $12 on there. No pressure. I realize there's a free option, but just remember, I am the father of a small child.
No pressure, but there is a 3-year-old who needs food involved.
Yeah, and daycare is...
And we'll put music under this. We'll put sad music under this part.
Right. I could raise him in front of a television, but I wanted him to go to daycare. That's not what we want for him, people. So, but I'm just saying it's there. Other than that, Hari Kondabolu on Instagram and Twitter and all the different socials. And I really appreciate you both having me on. It really also is nice to talk to other parents. It's still a treat and a privilege to me to have other parents to talk to. So thank you.
Awesome. So nice talking to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Hari.
Thank you.